Oh, well, hello there, beautiful YouTube people. How we doing? How we doing? Jeez. It is another MPL Philippines recap video with me. It's Naisou, and we're done with week 4, man. Mike, we're done with week 4. We're officially halfway done with the regular season. That's actually kind of crazy. I'm pretending I'm looking at someone and talking to them, but man, the fact that we're done with halfway of the regular season already feels super weird, because I feel like it went by super fast. I don't know how you guys feel. Maybe you guys feel like you have too many MPLs to watch anyways, because all the leagues are pretty much starting now. So there's a ton of MLBB professional play to watch, and we're halfway through the regular season, and a lot has happened. There's not a big, like, this one might be a little bit quicker, because I do feel like week 4, the main story of week 4 was really just the teams that were still undefeated. Now there's only one left. So we're going to go through it. All right, we're going to go through that. Week 4 was super fun. I got to cast, of course, Saturday and Sunday. And Friday we kind of just took off because we had been really busy for the week. And yeah, my parents randomly showed up in the Philippines for like 36 hours. So there's that. Anyway, let's get to this. Let me go ahead and pull this up. Shout out to the new background, by the way. All right. Okay, we're gonna go through this. Again, the standings are here for the past couple weeks, and we're gonna start it off once again. Week 4 was concluded. This one right here, ladies and gentlemen. To be fair, we started week 4 with an absolute banger. TNC versus TLPH, man. 3-game series. This was probably, I don't know if I can say this, but this was probably there's 2 here. That's why I'm saying, like, there's 2, and they both involve TLPH. This will probably be one of the only times, at least for now. You know what? It's halfway through the regular season. We'll say it now. Watch these 2 matches. Watch the 2 matches of TLPH if you want to see some damn good MLBB. But I still think the TNC TLPH match was definitely the highlight for a lot of people. Even watching it in person, I went there in person. I was watching in person. I wasn't casting, but it was hype as hell. Such a good match. 3 games of amazing gameplay, and you know, you have nearly all the games. Well, we can count this. We can round up. It's 20 minutes for game 2, even. You know. And so the whole series was, you know, 20+ minute games. Aside from that, but we'll go with it. But it was a story again of kind of their history and everything. So if you guys don't know all the ins and outs of the Philippine MPL history, the main arcing storyline of this season is just how much, well, number one, that it's a new era. It's a new era because of just kind of the new meta that we've been seeing shape from like M6 and SPS. Also the new era of 2 new organizations joining. That's Team Falcons and Twisted Minds. Also the fact that you have a lot of these players that used to be friends or teammates on previous teams, or, you know, vice versa on the past 7 years. It's been 7 years of MPL Philippines. So a lot of the storylines that you see us do every single week is that, right? It's the fact from the 7-year history of the Philippines. So hell of a series. It went 2-1 in favor of TLPH. That at that point they were still undefeated. And then we move on to APBREN and Omega. I was surprised this was a sweep. To be quite honest and frank, I do not know what happened to Omega here. Actually, the whole week I don't know what happened to Omega here. Last week's video with the recap, I was like, damn, Super Yoshi, Super Yoshi, Super Yoshi. And then this week, week 4, I was like, what the hell was that? You know, like that's how it felt. I don't know if the rest of the Burn guy felt that way, but that's how we felt. But APBREN does get their first dub of the series, of their point, you know, which is great for them. They definitely needed that. And I have been saying, like, you know, these guys have been improving every week. They've been improving every week, and they're getting there. They're showing promise. I don't know if I could say after this point, after the halfway point, I don't think APBREN makes it to the playoffs. They're my only team right now, but that could still change. It could still change because they have been showing potential, and they could just lock in the second half of the season and bump up, because I'll show you guys the standings later. They're very close there at the bottom. Okay. So yeah, that wraps it up. They get a sweep against Omega. Very underwhelming series, honestly, for the second one, especially after coming off this amazing one in the first of the day. Then we move on to day 2. This is where I was casting. This was a very long day. It felt like a super long day. I thought we were gonna have 9 games in total. But for anybody that wants to know, as a caster, when you have 3-game series and they're all really good matches, it's super fun. It's super exciting. Okay, I only casted 2. I didn't cast all 3. But sometimes some of the casters, like the analysts, shout out to Renmar, Brigida, Chantel, Midnight, all of them doing analysts and Anti, they do all 3 series. So this is a very long day casting wise. Love it for the storyline and everything else, but when you finish, you are exhausted. Okay. And so yeah, this just opened. It was amazing series. I even got to do the play-by-play for this. Big shout outs to Engan. He wanted to go ahead and switch roles, so usually I'm anchoring most of the season, guys, where I'm on that kind of like far chair. Well, if the person's in the middle is doing the play-by-play casting, and you know, I get to occasionally do play-by-play casting now, and I really love to do it, and this was an amazing series to do it. So if you guys also want to hear me do some play-by-play casting, head on over to the English stream and watch the Aurora versus TLPH series. Amazing series though. 2-1. Aurora beats TLPH, and that was massive just because, again, those were the 2 teams that were undefeated in the series, right? They both had streaks going, and TLPH, after beating TNC, was like on a big win, and people expected they'd still stay at the top of the standings. But then here comes Aurora. Boom. And remember, guys, there were people saying that Aurora was the most inconsistent, consistent team, right? Something like that. Saying they're inconsistent. Now, yes, internationally, they had some troubles in M6. We've talked about it. But I'll tell you what, man, this time around, I think Aurora is on a redemption arc, because damn, they look good. And it's still funny because Yue plays the Sicilian 3 times like he is him. Yue is like the Sicilian of the league right now. And more teams are obviously picking up the Sicilian pick, but this was also really good too. If you want to see some really good banter and you understand Filipino, I would say, if you want to see some really good pre-game banter, go watch the pre-show stuff of Aurora and TLPH. This is a rivalry that has been brewing for a couple seasons now, I would say, especially between the jungler of Aurora, which is Demonkite, and TLPH's jungler, Carl Teasy. They have had like a friendly rivalry for a long time. Of course, there's other rivalries here brewing as well, but those are the big ones, and a lot of the pre-game banter between the 2 teams in their camps were towards each other. Plus there's the 2 duos that we all talk about for Aurora. It's the Kite brothers, Demonkite and Demonkite, and then we have TLPH's of course they have the Sansan duo, but right now they're really building into the Baby Cakes duo, which is again Gold and Jungle. That's Carl Teasy and Oheb. So yeah, I would highly recommend go watch both TLPH matches on day 1 and day 2 if you want to see some really amazing games. Moving on, Onyx versus Omega. Again, very underwhelming performance from Omega. Not sure what's going in and what might change going into week 5, because just something is not clicking with Omega. I have no idea what it is. I don't know what they need to exactly work on because there's so many issues going on in their play. Onyx does get the sweep here, which of course Onyx needed. And eventually, you know, in day 3, they win too against Swiss Minds. But Onyx is in a weird place just because they had such a struggle in the beginning of the season. And I feel like they've been really trying to like catch back up and kind of fix things. Even for Onyx Philippines, though, I will say there are some things that looks like they're just that connection that they were known for, that super fam moniker for the whole team. They're like trying to bring it back, and even Kelra in the interview before the game mentioned that that's their goal. You know, they want to bring back the connection that made them so strong, that super fan, because they really felt like it had fallen off a little bit for season 15. And you can definitely see that from their gameplay. But they do get a sweep against Omega. But again, like I said last week with Onyx, yeah, they swept APBREN. Great for the victory, but it's APBREN. And APBREN is at the bottom right now. Omega, for me, too, is not performing well. For me, it's Omega and APBREN. They are looking like, in my hindsight for the playoffs, that I think APBREN and Omega might not make it to playoffs unless they make some drastic changes for the second half of the season. So I will throw that out there. Moving on to the last match of day 2, we have Team Falcons and APBREN. And again, I do have to say, APBREN is making improvements. Yes, I just said I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I still stand by that. There's so much potential here, though, especially with like Shizu and James Panks. I've said this in my previous video, man. I can't wait to see them get better. You know what I mean? Like just to get the reps in, because that's really what APBREN needs. I know it, you know, if you're not following the league and everything else very closely, you're going to look at APBREN and be like, man, they're doing really bad for the season. But every single game they show improvement. Every single game they show some potential. And remind you, this is Team Falcons, the boys that were under the banner of Falcons APBREN then, and then, you know, APBREN before, or Bren before. So this was kind of an interesting match. You know, it's like Renmar put it in a way. It's like the kids going against the kids, or the kids becoming your kids, or something like that. Renmar said something like that, but you get what I mean, right? It's like your former boys going against your old organization, and they took a game from Team Falcons. So again, APBREN's potential is definitely high up there, but I think it's going to take them this season to really figure things out, and maybe for season 16, if they stay together and everything else, they'll be a force to be reckoned with for sure. Moving on to day 3, this was our last day here just yesterday, where we round this out. Twisted Minds and Onyx PH. Now this was a good one, honestly, just because of the fact that Twisted Minds is really showing promise. Like Onyx almost lost this. Onyx almost lost the series, man. And I think that even from Onyx's point of view, like after they, if I remember right, after they won and they were on stage and everything, it just seemed like they weren't satisfied. And I get it, coming from a competitor in traditional sports before, sometimes you have those victories, man, that don't necessarily feel like victories. Yes, it's still a win. Yes, you still got a point and you got the dub. But as a team, as experienced and as decorated as Onyx Philippines, mind you, the current world champions and previous MPLPH champions, they are going to look at all the mistakes that they made in that series, in that game, and, you know, every matchup they play, and they might not, you know, like they're going to focus more on that than the fact that they won. And that's really hard to do, especially when you're at a super high level of playing and you've been at the peak. Again, these guys are world champs. What's higher than a world champ? Doing it multiple times, you know? So you are going to be very, I think, critical of yourself. And that's what I see from Onyx Philippines right now. And so when they do win, you know, sometimes it seems like, damn, they're probably more focused on the mistakes they made, because they did obviously make mistakes here against Twisted Minds, and Twisted Minds had a hell of a series here, and they have been a team back from my old recaps in the earlier part of the season where I was saying they really needed to step up. And I think now Twisted Minds has, with putting Escalera there and finally getting everyone to work around together. Mind you as well that Twisted Minds is the team that is kind of pushing the limits of the meta, and the meta changed a little bit again. It could change even more, actually. I think especially with next week. We got to remember, next week, or this week I should say, week 5, Kalea is going to be available, right? So there's quite a big patch. If you guys haven't caught up on it, check out some of the changes with the patch. And to wrap it up, we got Rora here. Rora, guys, they swept Team Falcons. And so Rora not only gave TLPH their first defeat of the season on Saturday, they are now at the top of the standings, right? Rora is at the top. And my highlight player for this whole week, guys, is RENEJAY. You know, I'm not sure exactly what they're going to put out yet, but whoever the highlight player of the week is and whatnot. But for my own personal highlight player of this week 4, it's RENEJAY. And I have to say, it's like, we call him so many things. You guys probably hear us on broadcast call him like the hitman, the heel man. He became the fist man with the badang. Like the heel man with the Estes. Like he pulled out the Estes, dude. He pulled out the Estes against TLPH. You know what I mean? So for me, RENEJAY used to be because he's so good at the Cho, hitman, RENEJAY. You know, he'd be able to, and a lot of people give RENEJAY shit. Like that's what drives me crazy. Like, especially in the comment section, you guys, sometimes the people are wild and like they'll just hone on RENEJAY making mistakes or like, you know, going for these things. Well, that's what makes him such an exciting roamer. The fact that he's willing to take those risks, make those setups for the team. But not only that, but his damn hero pool is probably one of the most flexible right now. A lot of teams try to ban out RENEJAY's picks for the roam, but there's just so many damn options for this guy that, yo, he makes it work. And that's what I love about watching Rora play right now. Aside from the fact, if you guys know me well, like in my casting career, ever since I started casting in season 8, I've always been a fan of Demonkite. Okay, Demonkite was my guy when I came into season 8 because I loved him in the amateur scene. He eventually went to RSG. That's why I was always rooting for RSG. Shout out to all the old RSG boys and Coach Panda, love them. But it was Demonkite that I loved watching. And so now that I see Demonkite shining over here on Rora with the whole Kite Brothers thing, and then you got RENEJAY over there, and just, you know, everybody comes together really for Rora. Like I love the whole lineup, but I think RENEJAY is literally the best roamer right now. In terms of hero pool, in terms of playing a certain style that really fits the team, because we're talking about some very different roamers here. So always keep an eye on RENEJAY. Yes, he's gonna make mistakes. There's some games he dies like 5 times, but somehow, some way, he still makes it work for the team. All right, so that's the wrap up here for week 4. Again, week 4 was mainly about what teams would finish the first half of the regular season at the top of the standings, undefeated. It ends up being Rora. TLPH gets their first loss. So the whole first, you know, round robin is done. Now, as we get ready for week 5, we go into the rematches, right? So we go, now it's rematch time. And you can see here for week 5 already, we've got Rora opening up against Twisted Minds. TNC versus Onyx. I think Rora is going to be a 2-1 against Twisted Mind. It'll be huge. It'll be huge if Twisted Minds upsets Rora and gives them their first loss here, though, to start off the second half of the regular season. That'll be crazy. TNC versus Onyx. This is going to be a really tough game for Onyx. I think TNC, if they win this, if they beat Onyx, they'll continue that storyline of them rising this season. I think this one is going to be Onyx 2-1, though. I think it'll be a 2-1 versus TNC. Now for day 2, moving on, TLPH versus Team Falcons. I think TLPH is still really locked in. Love the Falcon boys, but I think this is going to be a 2-1 TLPH. APBREN versus TNC. I think TNC is still going to go with this. They're going to 2-1 APBREN. I think Bren will keep taking games from people, but I find it hard to see them winning a series. There's too many young mistakes, you know? Onyx versus Rora. This is going to be a damn good one on Saturday. And I'm going to say Rora is still going to win this because right now I don't see much weak points in Rora's gameplay. So 2-1 Rora. Day 3, Team Falcons will sweep Omega. Unless some big change comes in week 5. What could happen, right? I don't know anything. Twisted Minds versus TLPH. TLPH is gonna. I think they just stampede. Like Baby Cakes do all those boys, Sansan and, you know, JP. They're all pissed off. They're gonna sweep Twisted Minds. So that's my predictions for week 5. Again, looking at the standings, this is what we got right here. Rora on top, 7-0. Who came into season 15 thinking this is how the first half was gonna go? Not me. Then we got Team Liquid 6-1, Team Falcons 5-2, Onyx 4-3, TNC here at 3-4, 1-6, 1-6, 1-6. So again, the promise from Twisted Minds looks a lot better than I would say for APBREN and Omega. I expect them to bump up, but this is now where it gets crunch time for especially these bottom 3 teams, and even in a sense, Onyx and TNC. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Alrighty. Nice little transition there. But yeah, those are the standings, guys. Those are the that's the recap of week 4. Again, this is week 4. It is done and dusted. The first half of the season is already over. That is still insane to me. Somewhat looks like what I expected with some of the teams where they are. I did not honestly expect Aurora to be on top, though. I expected Onyx and TLPH to be 1 and 2. So that changed. And, you know, my expectations for APBREN, for example, and Twisted Minds were kind of similar to where they'd be. I expected Omega to be a little bit higher in the standings, but again, the first half of the season is usually a telling sign on how things are going to fall into place. But because we're on a new patch now, technically, and because Kalea becomes available in week 5, there is a possibility that things can change. And Twisted Minds being the team that likes to twist the meta, they might be able to find something else that ends up working. Because right now the big question is it the nice one baby meta? If you guys don't know what the nice one baby meta is, in a nutshell, that's usually when you're like playing with your girl or girlfriend or whatever, and they usually play like the support heroes, and you know, the boyfriend or whatever is playing like the assassin, and they're just going around like getting all the kills, and the girlfriend's usually playing like Angela, and she just like heart guards on him and goes, nice one baby. That's the best explanation I can come up with, but that was on broadcast, by the way. Maybe that's the meta right now, but also the assassins are still shining. Some of the utility heroes are coming back, so still waiting for the gourd though. Don't know if anyone's gonna pull that one out, but that is the wrap up, guys. I felt like I did that faster, man, but it's still, we're still at like the 23-minute mark, 20-ish, something like that. So hopefully I was able to go through it quickly for you guys. It was a great way to end the first half of the regular season. Let me know what you guys think. Is this what you guys expected for the first half of the regular season? Did you guys expect Aurora to be #1 right now and undefeated? Because I didn't, and I think a lot of people didn't going into the season. So let me know, comment down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, guys. It helps drive the video out. And yeah, thank you for subscribing and thank you for commenting on all these recaps. This was the MPL Philippines recap for week 4. I have been Naisou. I mean, I'm Naisou, and we'll see you guys in the next one.